Welcome to the Virtual Strategic Solutions Virtual Reality Simulation System. Accessing Legacy Dataset. Files loaded. Simulation ready. One of the two original park areas in Nuka-World, Kiddie Kingdom, opened to the public on May 1st, 2050, along with Nukatown, USA. The area was an instant hit with visiting children and continued to grow and develop as the park expanded, focused on offering more fun than one could enjoy in a single day. Magician Oswald the Outrageous was the headliner of the area, with tickets to his spectacular shows selling out within a few hours of the park's opening each day. Still, the Ferris wheel was a timeless classic, where visitors enjoyed relaxing and taking in the view of all the sights Nuka-World had to offer. Unlike most survivalist settlements, Kiddie Kingdom was first conceived at a party for Rachel Watkins, who got a job in the park as Princess Cherry. Agreeing to occupy the zone if the Sino-American War turned especially sour, instead of sealing the deal with a handshake, the employees passed a round of shots. In less than a year, Oswald and Rachel had adequately stocked the employee tunnels beneath the area with preserved food and seeds, water from the pump systems, tools, and lumber. Mitchell Sykes was assigned to collect weapons. On October 23, 2077, the Chinese finally dropped the bombs and all the employees stuck to the plan. They were not able to talk sense into all of the area's visitors, but did rescue a few among the stampede to bring them to the refuge in the tunnels. 1 week later, with the survivors already having written him off as dead, Mitchell finally appeared in a semi-truck loaded with guns, explosives, food, medicine, chemicals and more. He reported he'd simply been busy gathering the rest of what the employees would need to fortify Kiddie Kingdom. When Oswald asked him about the delay and the blood on his shirt, Mitchell deflected and told Oswald to leave it alone. The survivors then decided to blow up the service tunnel passages connecting to the other areas of the park as a precaution. Additionally, if the situation did not calm down in the next few weeks, they would head outside and barricade the gates. When the fighting outside subsided, the survivors decided to leave the employee tunnels, divide the kingdom among themselves for living accommodations, and fortify the park. Just as they were finishing barricading the gates, a strange storm started to blow in over the horizon to the east. They barely had time to finish before the storm struck. It was unlike anything they had seen before, like a tornado with green lightning arcing through the sky. They all took shelter where they could, but a few were sucked into the vortex and disappeared forever. The storm took hours to pass, trapping the survivors in place. The storm was highly radioactive, most likely picking up the fallout from Boston, and everyone experienced radiation poisoning for weeks. Many died, while those who lived began mutating into ghouls, something their preparedness videos hadn't mentioned. After the storm passed, the survivors finished establishing the defenses, and the situation began to slightly improve. It was at this time that Rachel became the refugees' unofficial doctor due to her background in organic chemistry, and Oswald stepped up to become the leader of the community. In these first few weeks after the Great War, the survivors were attacked for the first time. The group that attacked was not large, nor were they as well armed as those defending Kiddie Kingdom, but were exceedingly desperate and fought ferociously. The attack ended with victory for the survivors. Within the first few months after the radiation storms began, 23 people had died, and the rest had completed their mutation into ghouls. 1 year after the Great War, an alarm woke the refugees in the middle of the night. The water intake pipes were drawing in glowing radioactive water from the outside. They had all heard the rumors about Nuka-World having a reactor in the bottling plant and suspected it was to support production of the new Nuka-Cola Quantum. Their assumptions were correct, but the issue was moot at this point, as they were immune to radiation in their new ghoul forms. Years later, the survivors were attacked by a huge mob that managed to breach the defenses and almost reach the castle, when Fran Fowler had an epiphany. The community was immune to radiation, but the attackers probably were not. She ran into the tunnels and turned on the park's sprayers. In minutes, the attack was over. When her ex-boyfriend Evan Barnes heard it was she who saved the day, he kissed her until she couldn't see straight. Needless to say, they got back together. This strategy continued for decades, Groups continued to investigate the park from time to time, but they were usually scared away by the ghouls in their clown makeup and the radioactive sprayers. However, after over 100 years, something the survivors began calling the Affliction started sweeping through the community. The radiation had begun to turn them feral, resulting in an insatiable hunger for flesh and excessive aggression. As the situation worsened, the refugees looked to Rachel to devise a cure. However, despite trying every remedy she knew of, she was unable to treat the condition. The survivors soon recognized the signs of the Affliction. Some were naturally afraid they were going to become feral beasts, needing to be locked away for others' protection. Some even suggested putting the afflicted out of their misery, but the notion was rejected almost immediately. The community had become a family and determined to find a cure against the odds. Yet after having survived radiation storms, starvation and attacks for over 100 years, it was the Affliction that ultimately destroyed the settlement. Rachel's childhood friend Fran would eventually succumb to the Affliction, leaving Rachel distraught and hating her home. However, the Affliction soon proved its worth. A large attack on the park pushed the community back to the castle gate, but when they were about to retreat into the theatre, feral ghouls emerged and fought the invaders back. The raid prompted Oswald, now a glowing one, to practice some of his newfound magical talents. When Dean Becker was struck by a stray bullet, fearing the loss of another member of the community, Oswald snapped, emitting a wave of energy that caused Dean to start breathing again. Oswald's mutation had allowed him to heal his comrades, giving hope it may be used to cure the Affliction. However, in 2286, a new gang of raiders led by overboss Coulter, larger than any group the community had seen thus far, seized Nukatown, USA. It was around this time that Rachel suggested either she or Oswald leave the refuge in order to search for a cure for the Affliction elsewhere. Oswald was hesitant at first, unsure as to whether the community could survive a leader's departure, but recognized even his powers were unable to cure the disease. Shortly after the discussion, Rachel left for the ruins of Bradburton, hoping to find leads to follow. Over a year passed without word from Rachel, and the future of Kiddie Kingdom looked increasingly dim, with the castle walls crumbling and no survivors remaining except Oswald and his afflicted comrades. Unaware the Affliction had taken Rachel as well when she finally reached the town of Bradburton, Oswald continued watching over the area as he had for 2 centuries, keeping scavengers and raiders out with the dense radioactive fog and shambling painted ferals. Simulation completed. Please exit the pod or have a technician select another file.